Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And today, I want to talk to you about all the books that I read while I was on vacation. I actually have a list of like 7 or 8 videos that I want to make on this channel, and the day gets away from me, and before I know it, it's too late. I'm like, okay, I'll just film that tomorrow, So this is actually the second video of the day that I'm filming. I filmed a drama video, and now I'm filming this, so I want to make sure that I get this video up today. And then later this week, I'm going to be announcing the books for May for a true crime book club and for Peter's book club. And I'm also going to be going back and doing reviews of the books for Peter's book club over here and doing videos for those as well, because a lot of people have been asking me about those. But I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those books today. I do need some help from you guys, though, okay? I am looking, so Mel and I have already figured out which book that we're going to read for May, and like I said, I'll be announcing that later this week. So we already know what book that we're going to read for May for True Crime Book Club. And it's something that's very, very current. Trials are going on right now, and so Mel suggested it. I think it's a great idea. There's a lot of like documentaries and television footage and stories about this, so it'll be an interesting story for us to read about. But I do not know what book to pick for, which book to pick for Peter's book club for the next month. I'm kind of undecided. Like, now that spring and summer are coming back, I'm still in the thriller mood, but I'm also very much wanting to start reading cozy mysteries again. So I'm like, should I pick a cozy mystery? I have a couple in mind. Are there new books, new thrillers out there that you guys want to read? I actually have a couple in mind for that as well. Some I've already downloaded. So if you could let me know in the comment section below, it'll either be a thriller or a cozy mystery. Put in the comment section below which one you guys would like to read, a thriller or a cozy mystery, and I will pick one, and I will announce that later this week. Okay, so let's get into the books that I read while I was on vacation. So the first book that I finished while I was on vacation was The Firm by John Grisham. So The Firm and The Exchange, which is the sequel that just came out, I think in 2023, the end of 2023, by John Grisham, were the 2 books for March for Peter's book club. And I shared that I had read a lot of John Grisham's books back in my younger days, like after I got sober, and that I wanted to, and I talked about having read The Firm and things like that, and that I wanted to read The Exchange, which was the sequel to it, but I didn't remember a lot about The Firm, and so I wanted to go in and read The Firm first, and then I wanted to watch the movie as well. I have to tell you, after having read The Firm, I'm not sure, if I've read it, I have completely forgotten about it. So, I mean, it would have been when I was like 23 or 24 that I read it. I can remember there was this one summer that like I house sat for my dad, and I would sit on this back patio overlooking the lake, and I read all these John Grisham books. And maybe that was a couple years after that, I don't know, but it was The Street Lawyer I read, and The Pelican Brief, and a bunch of those. I read a lot of the John Grisham books. I don't know if I read The Firm. I feel like I remember it because it was so thick, is why I remember reading it. But I listened to it on Audible. I listened to all these on Audible, and I do not remember The Firm at all. Now, I will tell you, The Firm was a slow burn for me, okay? Let me look in here. I have my Goodreads pulled up right now, how many stars I gave it. I gave The Firm, I think, 4 or 5 stars. I gave it 4 stars. So The Firm was kind of a slow burn for me. I actually started it before we left to go to Miami, and I listened to like the first 2 or 3 hours while I was cleaning out my basement, and it's the setup of Mitch and his wife trying to figure out what law firm they're going to go to, and then going to the law firm, and blah, 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 the firm, which is the law firm that he ends up working for, and then him like being, you know, approached by the FBI, and him having to go undercover, and all this kind of stuff. I don't know why, but all I kept on remembering, and I think I had seen the movie years ago, if I hadn't read the book, but I think I had seen the movie, but I'll tell you, right after I finished this, I watched the movie before I started The Exchange. I didn't really remember the movie either. I remembered like this one scene, and maybe it's like from a clip that I've seen or something, of Holly Hunter standing behind Tom Cruise, who plays Mitch, what's his name, McDeary or something like that, standing behind him as they're like photocopying stuff. That's like the only thing I remember from any of it. But anyway, the first half of The Firm was so slow, you guys, but the second half I thought was fantastic. I loved it. I love the second half of The Firm. That night that I finished it was when we were in Miami. It was after we went to the music festivals, like the I think I finished it like the first, like Monday or something like that. Well, I can actually tell you the date that I finished it on here. So I finished it. Does it have a date on here that I finished it? I finished it on March 28th, which would, yes, I think that would have been that Monday. March 28th. Oh, no, it was that Thursday. So I finished it March 28th, and that night I watched The Firm, the movie. The Firm, the movie is not a lot like the book whatsoever at all at the end. Like the whole, the run and then hunting him down and all that kind of stuff. It's so different in the movie than it is in the book. In the book, it is, and watching it, they spent so much time in the movie developing the characters and developing the backstory. But the movie, it's like the real action, or the real action of the book takes place in like the last half to third of the book when he's running here, running there. And it's really the genius of the book of how John Grisham came up with all these different ideas of how they're going to hide money and they're going to do this, and then he ends up taking this $10 million and they run away and they're on this boat forever, and that's kind of what happens at the end. The movie was nothing like that. The movie was completely different, and I didn't dislike the movie, but I didn't love the movie. The book was much better than the movie. And for me, it's not always that the book is better than the movie, but in this situation, the book was much better than the movie. So I watched the movie, and then the next day, I started The Exchange. So when The Firm, the book, leaves off, they are on this boat. He's bought this boat, and he's being taught like how to sail this boat to the Caribbean, and they're on this island off of Grand Cayman, and then they're gonna like sail through the Caribbean. I thought when The Exchange, so The Exchange is the long requested sequel to The Firm by John Grisham. That's why I picked these books for Peter's Book Club, because I wanted to read The Exchange. So The Exchange picks up where basically it's like years later. Why can I not remember his wife's name after reading all these books? And Mitch and let me go in here. Hold on a second. Mitch and, why can't I remember this? His wife's name. I know somebody's like shouting it at me. Oh, shoot. Okay, The Exchange. The Exchange came out, let's see, October 17th of 2023. It should say her name in here. Mitch and Abby McDeer. So, Mitch and Abby, actually, I thought it was going to pick up and they were going to be like on a boat in the Caribbean and something was going to happen and they were going to come home and they were going to get caught up in the middle of all this. That's what I thought was going to happen. And if I were John Grisham, that's the book that I would have written. What ends up happening is at some point of cruising through the Caribbean, they got bored. And so they moved to New York City, and Mitch now works for a law firm in New York City, like a really reputable international law firm. And Abby is she's a writer of like restaurants and trying different restaurants, and she's going to open a restaurant. And they have these people that come in. I don't know. Anyway, the majority of it takes place in Libya. And this person gets kidnapped, and then they're trying to, it was not good. It was not good at all. I think I gave it 3 stars. I gave it 3 stars. It was not good. I literally finished it in like one day. I was like, I've got to get this done. The first part of it is so much about, they have these 2 twins, and it's about their twins, and then they go stay, and then she gets approached by this woman about the kidnapped. So it's this guy that he's been friends with for a long time that lives in London. Oh, at one point, they went and stayed like in the south of Italy or the south of France, and they rented this house for a long time, and I think that's where they met this guy that's a lawyer, and then that's how he ended up working for this law firm, for this international law firm. But he's known this guy forever that lives in Italy, and it's like his daughter that gets kidnapped in Libya because they're doing I don't know, the whole thing was a lot, you guys. And I thought, this is the sequel to The Firm. Like, this would have been a good standalone about some other characters, but this was not what I wanted in the follow-up of Mitch and Abby McDeer. I was like, I want to know what happened to your brother. Like, they don't even really mention that except for that he's working in like Key West. I'm like, I want to know what happened to Holly Hunter's character, which what was her name? Tammy or something like that? I can't even remember now. I want to know what happened to her. Where's she at? You know, in the movie they show that she's like with the brother. Is she still with the brother? Where's she at? Okay, she's still with her husband Elvis. What happened to her? You know, in the movie that her husband helped some, which in the book, like, she's so distant from her husband. It's so bizarre how they, like, I don't know how they took that book and turned it into that movie. But anyway, yeah, so the movie was disappointing after you watch the book. But The Exchange, it was just like, okay, and then he still didn't get along with her parents, and they were still angry with him, even though he'd given him $1 million in the previous book. And then they have to come and stay at this mansion that this like guy has because they're like hiding the kids and Abby and her parents, and the whole thing is just, it's so bizarre. But anyway, so I finished that, gave it 3 stars. Then that night I turned around and I read the March book for, was it the March book or the April book? It was the April book for, whoa, wait a second. Now I don't know. I read While Idaho, no, it was the March book. While Idaho Slept, The Hunt for Answers in the Murders of the 4 College Students by J. Reuben Appelman. It was our March book for True Crime Book Club. And I have to tell you, I was like, had to think in my head. The April book is an American Black Widow. But anyway, so I went into this book, and I don't know that I think the book would be, like, people would love it if they follow this case deeply and they know a lot about it. I knew nothing about the Idaho 4 cases. I knew nothing about that. I didn't follow it on the internet. I didn't watch the court trials. I didn't watch any of that. So the book, to me, was very interesting, and it actually goes into depth about a lot of goes into depth about the victims and a lot of their lives and their backstories and their families and stuff like that. It's very interesting. It goes into the backstory of the killer and goes into all that. And then when I came back, I watched, it's like new on Peacock or something. It's called The Idaho Killer. And it was like a 48 hours episode. It was bad. It was not good at all. I learned more in the book. But if you watch the show and you read the book, you would learn, like, because the show had some things that the book didn't. And so the book, I liked the book. I didn't think it was like the best true crime book I've ever read. I gave it 3 stars. It was just kind of like a basic retelling of the events as they happened. But I didn't know anything about that case. And I thought it was extremely tragic. So, got that done. And then, on the way back, I think that was the night before we left. And then, on the way back, I finished that. And on the way back, I started in the airport, because we were waiting forever, Amy Tinteris, and this was the April book. This is the April book for Peter's Book Club, so I won't get into this too much, so I want to do a review about it. But listen to The Lie by Amy Tinteris. I started it in the airport, and I finished it on the plane. It was so good. The narration is so fantastic. It is really, really, really well done. So if you guys, oh, hold on a second, let me get back into my books. Reading challenge. Okay, so if you guys don't know this, it came out, I think, just a couple months ago. March 5th of 2024, it just came out. And when I was on vacation, so many people laying by the pool and on the beach were reading this book. I couldn't even believe it. What if you thought you murdered your best friend, and if everyone else thought so too? And what if the truth doesn't matter? After Lucy is found wandering the streets, covered in her best friend Savvy's blood, everyone thinks she is a murderer. Lucy and Savvy were the golden girls of their small Texas town. Pretty smart and enviable. Lucy married a dream guy with a big ring and an even bigger new home. Savvy was a social butterfly loved by all. And if you believe the rumors, especially popular with the men in town, it's been years since that horrible night, a night Lucy can't remember anything about, and she has since moved to LA and started a new life. But now the phenomenally huge hit true crime podcast, Listen for the Lie, and its 2 good-looking hosts, Ben Owens, have decided to investigate Savvy's murder for the show's 2nd season. So the backdrop to it is kind of this podcast. It works. I will tell you, I've listened to a lot of other books that have like a backdrop of a podcast, like Sadie by Courtney Summers. That is like, it goes along with it. And I just listened to something not too long ago. Which one was it? Was it the Lisa Jewell book? None of this is true. That was to a podcast as well. That was fantastic. The podcast works in this, but it works because it's not just about the podcast. It's also about the guy that is doing the podcast. And he's kind of a character in the book as well. I will say, I think I ended up giving this 4 stars, not 5. Oh, I did give it 5 stars. It was a great mystery. I wouldn't say it was like the greatest mystery in the entire world, but the reason I think I ended up giving it 5 stars, I remember now, was because it was so fast-paced. Like, you couldn't stop, like, reading it or listening to it. It was so good. The story was so good. And the details about the town and the small town that she lives in, and, like, her parents always thought she did it, like, which is, that happens right at the beginning, but, like, they always thought she was the one that murdered her friend, and the details that come out, and she doesn't really remember anything from that night, and what is, like, revealed over time, and it's done so well. The pacing of the book is done so well, and the character, I'm somebody that loves a good character in any book, so yeah. So those are the books that I read while I was on vacation, and then I just finished Juliet Takes a Breath, the graphic novel, which is based on the book by Gabby Rivera, and I gave it 4 stars, and it was fantastic, but I finished that when I got home. So, those are all the books that I read on vacation. Cozy mystery or thriller, put it in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.